Hello there, lovely folks of YouTube. Ren here. So we're diving back into our herbal craft a little bit. I am going to make a tincture. If you are not familiar with tincture, a tincture is an herbal infusion that uses alcohol as the solvent. Or sometimes the word used is menstruum, which is very old-timey word that means solvent. So whereas a tea or other herbal infusion, the menstruum or solvent is hot water. With a tincture, it's alcohol. Now you will sometimes see people making tinctures out of vegetable glycerin as an alternative to alcohol for people who can't have alcohol. I do want to mention, of course, that although that is viable, it's technically not really a tincture because a tincture requires alcohol. That would be an extract. But yes. It is a viable alternative if that's something that you're looking to do. You don't want to use the alcohol. The same steps would be used for vegetable glycerin instead of alcohol, but it's the same process either way. So we're using alcohol, but with your finished tincture, generally, if it's something that you plan on consuming, the amount at which you consume is not enough to have any physiological effects from the alcohol. Tinctures are usually dosed in drops, and that's really not enough to get you drunk. So they are extremely potent because the alcohol is very, very good solvent for getting out the active components from the plants. So now that being said, for your menstruum, your solvent, you do want to make sure that if you're planning on consuming it, you're using an alcohol that is meant to be consumed. So it has to be only ethyl alcohol, no other kind of alcohol. Generally what you would buy at the liquor store is what you want to look for. And it has to be at least 80 proof or 40% alcohol. Generally, the stronger the alcohol is, the faster your tincture is going to finish brewing. In my case, what I have here is the strongest alcohol you can get. This is, sometimes the brand is Everclear, but this is a grain alcohol. 190 proof or 95% alcohol. That is literally as strong as ethyl alcohol can get without being adulterated in a way that makes it not fit for human consumption. So this is the strongest alcohol. This is overkill for a tincture, but this is just what I have. What alcohol you choose to use is really up to you. Most commonly, people use vodka because it's fairly neutral flavored. Personally, though, it always tastes like vodka to me, and I don't really care for the taste of vodka, which is why I use Everclear or this was a gift. It came from another state because legally you can't even buy this here in the state that I live in, but a good substitute would be like a moonshine. They do sell commercial moonshines here in Virginia that are top-notch and would be a good menstruum for a tincture as well. But you could use rum or whiskey or vodka or really anything, even tequila really. Anything as long as it's at least 80 proof or 40% alcohol. Just keep in mind that whatever you're using has its own energies. It's also made from plants, and so it's going to be bringing some of the plant energies of that plant that it's made from. So this is a grain alcohol. It's made from grain, so it's going to be bringing some of those grain energies of, you know, fertility and abundance and things like that. If you're using rum, which is made from sugar, it's going to bring that sugar aspect of, you know, sweetness, drawing in, you know, those sorts of energies as well. So keep that in mind when you're choosing your solvent, your menstruum for your tincture. So now, as I mentioned, this is like super potent, really overkill. I actually, if I'm going to consume this, I have to dilute this with an equal amount of distilled water to really make it palatable and tolerable. Otherwise, it will burn the shit out of your mouth. So, you know, keep that in mind. If you'll get faster results from this, but I have to water it down in the end. So there's that. The tincture that I am going to make today is chamomile and linden. So I have both chamomile and linden flowers. Linden being sometimes called lime tree. Tilia is the genus name on this. It is a tree. Basswood is the tree's name here in the United States. But makes these flowers in the summertime that are absolutely delicious. wonderful in teas, has a very calming, anxiolytic, meaning anti-anxiety nature to them. So the combination of this and chamomile are a good combo for relieving anxiety and helping you get to sleep. And that's basically what I'm making this tincture for. But really you can use whatever herbs you feel like and whatever combinations you feel like to bring about the effects that you want. This is just the combination that I've chosen because I don't need it personally. I don't have any problems getting to sleep, but there are members in my family that do need some help. You know, particularly a couple college students who are a little stressed. So I thought that maybe this would help them. So that's what we're making it for. So why don't we start talking about the process here? Basically, pretty simple process. You want a clean jar with a good airtight lid. Canning jars are best because not only will it make a nice airtight seal, but also the interior lid of the jar is resistant to any corrosion or anything, because alcohol, again, it's a powerful solvent and it can corrode metal sometimes. So plastic lids would work as well, but I have lots of canning jars on hand. So if I were making like an actual professional medicinal tincture, I might actually want to weigh out my herbs and make sure that I have the right proportions of herbs to alcohol, which is usually about between 1 to 2 and 1 to 5, depending on your herbs. I am not being super exact and scientific about this. I'm literally just going to fill up my jar by eye, about 2/3 full. So let's get started. Let me start with the chamomile. Oh, it smells delicious. And I'm literally just gonna start putting chamomile into my jar. No, I'm losing flowers. Luckily my tabletop is clean. Always have a clean working surface anytime you're doing anything like this. Alright, that's a good start right there. Make sure I get those little stray flowers. There we go. I apologize if there's some noise in the background. I'm not sure what you are able to hear, but I am running my dishwasher because I'm so far behind on chores. Alright, and then the linden flowers. So these little flowers, you can see, it's a little bundle of flowers and then the little leaf bract that's attached to it. Both of those are good. I'm actually going to crush this up a little bit so that it takes up a little less room, and that way you get a better concentration. And like I said, both of these came from my garden. You haven't seen the linden tree in any of my videos for 2 reasons. One is that it's still pretty small. It's only about 6 feet tall, so I don't get a whole lot off of it just yet. Like this, what you see here is the entirety of 1 year's harvest, where I basically took every single flower I could that the bugs hadn't gotten to, because as I've discovered, Japanese beetles love this tree, which I was very disappointed by. But the other reason you haven't seen this, of course, is that it's in my front yard, and I try not to film in my front yard. A, because it feels weird, and B, because I know what people are like on the internet. I don't want to give any... I've given enough details about my location. I don't want to give myself away too much. Alright, just a little bit more there. Got these little pieces that fell. There we go. So, as you can see, it's not an exact 50-50 split. Definitely a little more chamomile than linden, but that's okay. And we've got somewhere between 1/2 and 2/3, which is perfect. So, now we take our alcohol, our solvent, menstruum, and we're literally just going to pour this over the plant material till we get up close to the top of the jar. And that's it. Wow, I used a lot of it. Luckily, this will keep for a long time. Now, lid on the jar and shake it up. Once we've got our tincture all shaken up, at this point, it's just a lot of waiting. So, Make sure you label it so you know what it is and what date you started it. Put it in a cool, dark place. I put it in my pantry, which I close most of the time, and let it sit for at least 2 to 3 weeks, anywhere up to 6 weeks. Anytime you think about it, just go in there and give it a good shake again, and that's it. You'll know when it's done because all the plant material in there will look kind of bleached out. That means that all the good stuff has come out of the plant material and gone into the alcohol. At that point, you just strain it into, ideally, like a nice dark glass bottle, using a piece of cheesecloth in a funnel. So you literally just take your funnel, put the piece of dampened cheesecloth in there, and pour the tincture through the cheesecloth. That will strain out all the plant material into your bottle, again, labeled with the date on it, and it's then ready to use. Now, like I said, this is dosed usually in drops or droppers, most commonly. It will keep about 2 to 3 years in the cupboard without any loss to its potency. Vegetable glycerin, if you use that route, it lasts way less time. We're talking like 6 months for that one. But yeah, store it properly in a cool, dark place in a nice dark glass vial, and it will keep for a very long time. You can then use it, like I said, just a little bit in, put a dropper into a glass of water or another drink just to kind of help calm your nerves. Several droppers full, like 3 or 4, will help to maybe get you to sleep at night. So at least that's how I plan on using it. Now, you can use other herbs and tinctures, even if you're not planning on drinking them. In which case, you don't necessarily have to use grain alcohol. If you're not planning on drinking it, you could use isopropyl alcohol instead. So like for examples is you could do a tincture with sage and lavender and an isopropyl alcohol and use that as a base for a room spray that you spray around the room as an alternative to smoke cleansing. If you can't abide the smoke in your house for asthma reasons or other reasons, then that would be a good alternative and also an excellent use for a tincture as well. So just make sure, again, that it is very clearly labeled if it is not intended for drinking, especially if you're using a herb that is not generally regarded as safe. And then make sure it is labeled so that somebody doesn't accidentally try to put it in their tea. So, but yeah, like I said, it's a pretty simple process and makes some really fabulous results. And then it sounds really impressive when you're like, ooh, it's my homemade tincture. Ooh, yeah, super, super impressive. So go out there and wow people with your fancy words like menstruum. All right. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope this video finds you well, and I will see you again soon.